Last 8 months, and what has surprised you the most about being Prime Minister?
What have I learned? Well, I'll tell you what has surprised me the most, even though having been around politics for a number of decades, in other words, you know, when I was a civil servant, when I worked at the Bank of Canada, the Bank of England, etc., I dealt with prime ministers in various ways. So I had a sense that the job is 24/7, 365 days a year. It's one thing to have that sense, it's another thing to live it. So in that respect, it is a surprise. There's just a host of issues that I'm sure we'll talk about, a subset of them today, that are on my mind that I need to make sure that the government is dealing with, anticipating moving forward. So that's probably the biggest surprise. And then of course the other aspect of being a politician is how you express those issues, how you speak with people and engage. And look, I'm not perfect at it. I think you figured that out, and I'm sure I'll demonstrate that in the coming minutes.
But you called yourself a politician, though. You didn't used to do that.
I am now a politician. I have to admit, I am Prime Minister, so yeah. I am a politician, but I'm still a pragmatist.
It would be easier for you, though, if you had a majority. And you're inching towards that.
Well,
you are. You're one away now. Because you have managed to lure a couple of Conservative MPs to the Liberal caucus.
Lure.
Are you courting up?
Lure. Key word. I like how she used that word.
You are. You're one away now. Because you have managed to lure a couple of Conservative MPs to the Liberal caucus.
Look at his face.
Are you courting other Conservative MPs to push you over the edge?
Well, it's interesting. I wouldn't have chosen that verb, lure.
Courting? Luring?
Lure or courting.
Okay. I knew that pissed him off. She got a little too real.
What I would choose is they are attracted by what we are doing. And that's a key element. You're looking in Parliament to have the confidence of the House and the, you know,
like no type of hate. We know damn well that they didn't just switch sides like that. Like, let's be so for real. It doesn't make sense. The week before, this guy Ma, he was out here attacking Liberals. And then a few days after, I think a week after or something, this guy switched. You're not about to tell me that they're just attracted to what you're doing. You're not going to tell me there wasn't a bribe. You're not going to tell me that he didn't benefit somehow. Like, let's be for real.
In the vernacular, in the term. So you need support of obviously your own caucus, but others to either support or not stand against what you're doing if you're in a minority.
So
sometimes
did they come to you and say?
Yes, absolutely.
And did you meet with them, with Chris Nonchalant and Michael
I met with them just at the end of what was a process, but in those cases, they came to us. They were interested in. They were attracted by what the government is doing. This is a positive vote for the government, supporting the government at a crucial time for our country. And I'd underscore that there's a sense of responsibility that comes obviously with these roles. And we are in a better position as a country, my judgment, 9 months in to this government. Economy's better, we've got a plan, we're implementing that plan, we're making progress internationally, we're becoming more independent as a country.
Making progress internationally, making progress as a country. What? Nigga has to be playing with me.
But we are still in a crisis because our neighbor, our biggest trading partner.
It's the only thing he said that's true so far. We're in a crisis.
Has fundamentally changed his policies. So there is a sense of responsibility. The government's moving. It's attractive to members of the House, and they're coming to us.
President Trump faces midterm elections next fall. The U.S. Supreme Court is set to rule on whether his tariff scheme is legal or not. Is one strategy simply to wait him out, to let events potentially take over?
Well, certainly a strategy is not to rush into a bad deal, and that's what we've been very disciplined about. And every week that goes by,
I can actually
the
agree
more that we're developing our economic strategy at home, the more we're developing those relationships abroad, the stronger we get. So you gave the example, you prompted me on the defense spending, that $80 billion. That's an enormous amount of money. That's necessary to protect our Arctic. It's necessary to make sure the women and men of the Canadian Armed Forces have the right equipment. But a lot of that, instead of 70 cents on every dollar going south of the border to the United States defense contractors, a lot of that is now going to be spent here, and it's going to help develop other industries. So all of that puts us in a better position. So yes, is it a better position to be disciplined, have the tough negotiations, which we're having, have those discussions, and then if a good deal is there, yes, we will sign it. But if it's not there, we're not going to sign a bad deal.
Just to be clear, there aren't negotiations underway now formally.
There
right?
are not formal ones yet.
Okay.
But there's negotiations about negotiations. How's that? That's the way it works.
Oh, you're a politician.
No, but that's the way it works.
Negotiations about negotiations. Insane. But there's progress, right? Okay, listen, one thing I can say though is that one thing that Poilievre is going to always have over Mark Carney is the fact that he didn't make a deal, but it's also like not realistic. I think Pierre Poilievre would have been a better prime minister, and I actually voted for him, and I wanted him to win. But I don't think if Poilievre was inside right now, we'd have a deal. I think maybe he'd open the market up for Canada, and we'd be better, and we'd be making progress internationally, obviously, except from the US. But I don't necessarily think that he'd have a better deal with Trump. I think Trump is going to be Trump no matter who's dealing with him, you know what I mean? So that's one thing Poilievre is always going to have on Mark Carney, because he is prime minister at the end of the day. So it's like he can always hit him with like, oh, you don't have a deal yet, you don't have a deal yet, you don't have a deal yet. But it's like, I'm going to be real. I'm going to be real too. Even if I support Pierre, I'm not going to act like we're not dealing with Donald Trump right now. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's a little crazy. This is the first time in history that US had such a president. Look what he's doing to the whole world, tariffing everyone like it's a game. Everything I can say about Mark Carney, at the very least, I can say that he's not rushing into a bad deal. I'd rather him have no deal than a bad deal. You feel me? I'd rather have negotiations about negotiations than a bad deal.
The scoping of what's going to be in CUSMA, how it's going to be arranged, and that's going to come.
It feels like the ground is shifting globally. I mean, you have described it as a hinge moment, a rupture of multilateral rules-based order. Where does Canada fit into that as a middle power? What kind of influence can we really wield?
Yeah, it's very... First, I think
moment,
it's very important that we recognize exactly what you just said, how much things have changed, and it's a very fluid situation internationally. That's one of the reasons why we're being so aggressive in talking to different partners, developing different defense, security, and economic partnerships. What I would say to Canadians, the good news is virtually everybody wants to do more with Canada. So that's true in Asia, whether it's the Philippines, Thailand, Singapore, the ASEAN countries, which are almost a quarter of the world's GDP. It's Indonesia, it's the European Union, it's the UK, it's the countries of the Gulf. United Arab Emirates is going to invest $70 billion, $70 billion in Canada. They've made a commitment to that. They made the commitment. We didn't even ask, that comes. So people want to do more with Canada because we have what the world wants. We have the values to which most of the world aspires. We're a reliable.
So he's going to take that as an achievement, but then he's going to say that we didn't even ask them for it. They just wanted it. But he's going to take it as an achievement, though, like he negotiated that.
Partner. And we're an increasingly confident nation that has ambition. So people want to deal with us. Now, that is good for our economy. It's good for jobs. It's good for the future. It's good for our independence from the United States. But it also brings an opportunity to help shape a world that is more dangerous, more divided. And we see an example. I'll give you one example of that. We are a member of something called the Coalition of the Willing to support Ukraine. So the United States is not a member of the Coalition of the Willing supporting Ukraine. We are major European countries. Australia is in, United Kingdom as well. So we're helping to create the possibility of a lasting peace there through security guarantees and other support. And that type of...
Does he not, do people not understand that giving money to Ukraine is fueling the war? Like, do people not understand that? Bro, Russia was already starting to threaten people helping Ukraine, bro. And you want to involve us in that, bro? Like, be so for real. How's that doing anything for the security or lasting peace? That's fueling the war. All these countries giving Ukraine all these billions of dollars actually benefit from the war continuing.
Coalitions, different countries coming together on different issues. I think we're going to see more of that. Canada, with the right values and with influence because of we have what the world wants, I think we can play an important role there.
He said, we have what the world wants. But he doesn't want to give it to them. He doesn't want no pipeline. He doesn't want to get no resources. What do we have other than our resources that's valuable? The best thing we have at our disposal right now to utilize at a time like this where the U.S. is being a little, you know what I'm saying, is our natural resources, which he clearly doesn't want to give out.
Look, I do want to get to the question of the memorandum of understanding with Alberta for the pipeline. Do you look like a hypocrite for backing an expansion of the oil sands after spending so much of your career warning about the dangers of climate change?
Not at all, because what I've said consistently is that the world is going to use hydrocarbons for coming decades under any scenario, net zero, 1.5 degree scenario, IEA's scenario. It's in the variance of 25, 30 million barrels per day of oil, down from 100, but still being used. First point. Second point is what kind of oil or hydrocarbons are going to be used? Low cost, low risk, low carbon. Third point, low carbon, crucial. If we are going to continue to supply hydrocarbons, it needs to be low carbon. That is why at the center of the Memorandum of Understanding is Pathways, which takes 16 megatons of carbon out, the equivalent of 90% of the cars and trucks in Alberta off the road, and that these are low carbon barrels. In other words, the production and the transportation of that oil.
It's clean oil, I think is the term that Alberta uses.
Decarbonized oil.
Yeah.
Now, so that's, and then what else we've done, because the MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, it is the pipeline. It's a potential pipeline. It's Pathways. It is a 6.5 times increase in the effective carbon price. It is 75% reduction in methane. It is interties with the clean grid of British Columbia. It's nuclear investment in nuclear power as well. So it's a comprehensive approach to the medium-term energy, which is a lower carbon energy.
But climate change is not the urgent political issue that it once was. It's not on the top of everyone's agenda now.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, bro, listen, I totally understand as the leader of the Liberals, climate change is an important topic, right? And what the hell? Is it my birthday? Listen, I understand that climate change is important for a Liberal leader, but sometimes you have to move with the times, though. You gotta adapt. There's just sometimes there's things you gotta do. And I think at such a time as this, where our biggest ally is moving wonky, you have to learn how to be like, all right, you know what? Like, this is something that needs to be done. Like I understand that climate change and all that stuff is important, but it's like right now we're in a crisis, and right now this is important. A pipeline is important for our independence, you know? He just needs to learn to adapt. Like right now Like, even for him to put the MOU for a pipeline shows that even he has a level of understanding that, okay, right now, like, we actually might need a pipeline. Like, we actually need this right now. You know what I mean? So I think he should just go all the way with it. Even all the liberals who support all that net zero climate change shit, I don't even think they would be upset at this point. I don't even think the treaty people would be angry, bro. Like, you gotta adapt to the times, my brother.
In this moment that we are in, countries are pulling back from their net zero commitments. Many countries haven't made their emissions targets, including Canada.
Valid questions.
So where are we at on that?
Yeah, a couple of things. One, globally, we're off track. Exactly what you said. The ability to keep temperatures below 1.5 degrees is slipped away. The ability to keep them below 2 degrees, which was the Paris objective, is what the focus is. That's the first point. The second, in terms of Canada, we are also, what the policies that I inherited are not sufficient to meet our targets. Okay, not sufficient to meet our targets, 2035 targets, and in part because regulation in and of itself isn't sufficient. You need the investment alongside it. And so part of the shift of the government is to really focus on those investments at scale. So that is clean grid, and you'll see early in the new year our electricity strategy for the country, our clean electricity strategy for the country, but is also the commercial reality. Climate has become less of an issue politically if you look at polling, but it is continuing, the climate change is continuing remorselessly, and what is happening is that the importance of being lower carbon, whether it's in energy, automobiles, aerospace, services, whatever industry, will only become more important. You just have to look at where China and others are going. We have an opportunity, we have an enormous opportunity in this country to leapfrog the United States. The United States has taken its eye off the ball on this. I mean, they've really downgraded it. We have an opportunity to leapfrog the United States. On top of that overall responsibility, we can create jobs, we can make life more affordable, we can build our economy, and we are going to take those opportunities as they come.
Millions of Canadians who are struggling to pay the rent, who have difficulty buying groceries, because we are here in this gorgeous hall of the Museum of History with the history of the Pacific Northwest people here. It's their history, but...
Is it just me? Like, hear me out, man. Hear me out. She's kind of, like, pretty. You know what I'm saying? Like, she's a pretty, like, old woman, you know? Like, I don't know how old she is, but for her age, she's actually, like, I find her pretty, you know? Like, nothing weird. Like, it's literally just an observation. Like, she's kind of pretty for an old woman.
People who live there now are looking to their future, and some of them are opposed to another pipeline. Do not
watch the earrings. Wait, who is this girl? Like, wait, why'd you pull up looking saucy? Well, she did have an appointment with the Prime Minister of Canada. Makes sense. Because where do you even get these type of shoes, bruh? I can't lie, she pulled up stylish. Nigga, she looks like the Prime Minister.
Sure. And some of them are opposed to another pipeline. Do not want that happening to their coast. Believe that...
Yo, what's your name? Donna Friesen? Yo, what's up with you?
Rewards go to Alberta, and they take all the risk. It's their history, but the people who live there now are looking to their future, and some of them are opposed to another pipeline. Do not want that happening to their coast. Believe that the rewards go to Alberta and they take all the risk. What's your message to them?
Well, we were talking beforehand, my family, my parents from BC, and extended family all up and down the coast interior on Vancouver Island as well. So have some familiarity. Let's put it that way. The first thing is that what the MOU does with Alberta is it creates some of what are the necessary conditions in order for, amongst other things, a pipeline to be proposed, but not the sufficient conditions.
Meaning it won't necessarily get built.
Right. Well, meaning the following, which is that
You see how he said right? She literally said, which means it won't get built. And he said, right. I'm trying to tell you guys, bro. This is just a delay tactic to appease two sides and boost his ratings. But there's no real progress. He knows what he's doing.
a pipeline to be proposed, but not the sufficient conditions.
Meaning that it won't necessarily get built.
Right. Well, meaning the following, which is that for a pipeline to be built, the industrial carbon price has to be on this path to increase in Alberta. Secondly, there has to be the Pathways project. Thirdly, there has to be the methane. Fourthly, these various aspects that are all agreed. It's all part of a package, a grand bargain, as the Premier has said.
And there's a duty to consult.
There's fundamentally a duty to consult, and we have been absolutely clear about this from the start. You can't consult about something that doesn't exist, so you have to create the possibility for it even to exist before you begin the consultations. Now we've created the possibility. There's still no pipeline proposal. And that's the other thing that's in the MOU. This is not government building a pipeline. It's if there is a private sector proponent who will build.
So if it
Can
gets...
I make another, if I may,
Yeah, sure.
crucial point here? So it's not just about consultation. What this government has been absolutely clear is that it is full Indigenous participation in these major projects. That means obviously economic benefits if it is built, as it's built, and as it's operated, but also ownership. Ownership which we will help fund so that there is that ownership. We need the support, if there is a proposal, of First Nations and British Columbia. So it creates the possibility. I'm a firm believer and practitioner of cooperative federalism in all respects. So it's not just what we build.
I think you should just focus on a good deal for the First Nations, because it's not one of those things that you could just say no. And that's what I like about Pierre Poilievre. Like, he stood on business. When he was speaking, he's like, I'm going to build that pipeline. He's still going to discuss with them. He's still going to, there's going to be some sort of understanding and deal, but it has to happen. It doesn't mean you're disregarding the First Nation, but it's like I said before, at such a time as this, we have to do what's good for Canada, not just the First Nations. And shout out the First Nations, bro. I'm not even dissing. But this is about Canada as a whole. We all have the same value as human beings. Do you see what I'm saying? So it's like, we need to do what's good for everyone. First Nations are not the only people that live here, but whether that pipeline is built or not affects everyone that lives here.
How we build it, building it inclusively, building it sustainably, and building it in solidarity. And
if after all those conditions are met and there's a proponent and there's consultation, and after consultation the answer is no, is there a plan B?
Exactly. That's such a good question. Yo, I think I love this girl. No, I think I like her. I think I'm attracted to her. Like, she came out swaggy, and then she's not even like biased. She's asking good questions. She's kind of challenging him, but she's not going too crazy. Like, it's a nice conversation. This is a perfect interview. This is actually a good interview.
Could there be a Keystone XL?
Interview.
Could that idea be revived?
There are other options.
Is that one of them?
On paper, it's an option. Yes. On
paper,
that idea be revived?
It provides, if I may, there is a lesser strategic advantage in sending, if part of our objective as a country, which Canadians across this country tell me is, and I believe is right, is to become more independent, to diversify from the United States. Having another pipeline to the United States is less advantageous. Just to be clear, there are advantages.
It gets Alberta oil to Tidewater.
There are advantages, but it's much less advantageous than having a new market and having the diversification there. But let me make a general point. What we're interested in these nation-building projects, we have 110 billion plus of them already identified, everything from high-speed rail to major projects in the interior of British Columbia, major hydro projects, other aspects. What we're interested in is, what are people for? What are people for? We have more opportunities in this country than we can realistically do at one time. So we're working with Indigenous peoples, with provinces, with the private sector. What are we for? What can we build? Let's build now. Become more independent, create better jobs for Canadians, better futures for our children. That's the opportunity. It's the one we need to grab.
Okay, my final topic is about affordability. The single biggest issue when I said I'm coming to interview you, and I asked people, what matters to you most? And they said the cost of living.
Absolutely.
Hands down.
Yeah.
There are so many people, as you know, millions of Canadians who are struggling to pay the rent, who have difficulty buying groceries because the cost of everything has risen so much. What is your message to them? Do you just need to be patient? Is that what your message is?
Well, it's certainly not. First is absolutely understand the scale of this issue, and we have acted on it, and we will continue to act on it. And let me be more specific, which is that we had this huge surge in inflation after the pandemic, and then the overall level of inflation is now back to
roughly where you want it to be.
2%, roughly where the bank should be. But the level of prices, that's different. The level of prices is still high. And on top of that, the food, the expenses of people who are less well off in the country are particularly high.
Yeah.
So the price of beef is high because of drought in the U.S. and challenges. The price of coffee has gone up, dramatically. So the price of groceries has gone up considerably. So there is this affordability issue. So what are we doing? First off, we cut taxes for everyone who pays taxes. 22 million Canadians. It was the first thing we did as a government. And this is material particularly for those less well off. Second thing we're doing is we have preserved all of the programs in a tough budget where we had to take tough decisions, a budget where we're saving $60 billion, a budget where we're cutting 10% of the public service, 20% of consultants in the last budget. We preserved, rightly, because these are fundamental. Childcare, $10 a day childcare. National School Food Program, which helps 400,000 of our least well-off children. We've made that permanent. Pharmacare, dental care, healthcare, the healthcare transfers to the provinces, all the things that help on the margin. It's not yet enough. What we have to do as well is we have to look for other opportunities, increase competition, get prices down. And fundamentally, what we have to do is grow the economy. Yes, we have to grow the economy.
And that's the part that's going to take time. And I think that's the thing when people say to me, well, how long is it going to take? Ask them how long it's going to take.
Well, look, we are doing a series.
I really like the interviewer because she's asking like actual questions real Canadian people feel. This is a great interview. I think it's perfect for a year-end interview. Shout out to my crush.
We'll continue to look for others that help bridge over that period of time. But at the core is we have to grow this economy. And we have to grow this economy in a way that makes it more independent, more sustainable, that works with provinces and works with Indigenous people. We have to do all of those things. That's why we're in such a hurry. That's why we're doing the major projects. That's why we're launching Build Canada Homes, which will be cheaper homes as they're built for Canadians. That's why we're striking.
He still didn't answer the question of, is it just the be patient? He keeps prevaricating.
The reasons why this job, where we started, is relentless. It should be relentless. And look, we're making progress. We got to keep on this track. We're in a stronger position than we were 9 months ago at the start of the year, but we got to keep going, and we will keep going.
That's the big
Prime Minister, thank you for taking time with us, and happy
Thank you, girl.
holidays
Happy
to
holidays
you and your
to you.
family.
Yeah, thanks, Tom.
Thanks.
That was good. Like, honestly. Oh, we have Pierre Poilievre too?
Mr. Poilievre, good to see you. Thanks for taking time with us today.
Likewise, and Merry Christmas to you.
Wait,
Thanks. You too. 2025, let's talk.
Wait. Oh, this the same girl? Yo, hold on. What's the fit right now? What's the fit today? Like.
2025, let's talk about it. It hasn't been the
She
easy.
came with a more slick fit. You know, it's a chill day today for her. She said, "This is not the prime minister."
For you. The Conservatives did receive 41.
She tried significantly less here.
Percent of the popular vote in the last election.
looks fire.
You have a lot of loyal support right across this country, which I'm sure you're very proud of. But you didn't win the election and you didn't win your own seat. That would be a big blow to a lot of people in your position. Have you reflected on what went wrong?
Well, I have reflected, and you're right. It is a big blow to a lot of people who voted for, in record numbers actually, voted for affordable food, affordable homes, safer streets after 10 years of inflation and rising crime. And so we always reflect on how we can continue to inspire those 8.3 million people, a record number, who voted for us, but how we can inspire even more. And so my message for the year to come will be one of hope. I think people desperately need hope. Hope that they can afford groceries, hope they can afford homes. And many have put hope in me in the past, but we have to keep inspiring them so that more will do so in the future.
What I meant with respect was a big blow to you personally. Have you reflected on what went wrong in the
I thought of that, like, the day of the election. I'm like, after he lost, after all the momentum, after all the support, after everyone literally thinking that our new prime minister was going to be Pierre Poilievre, like, just the loss of it, I'm like, yo, like, I honestly expected him to give up. Like, I don't know how he continued after that, especially, again, guys, remember the series of events, bro. He lost. Then he lost his seat. You know what I'm saying? Like, his own seat, bro. It was such a big blow to me that I'm like, bro, how does the person himself feel? Like, how does Pierre Poilievre feel after this loss? Like, what did he do when he lost, bro? Like, did this guy just sit in the crib and, like, cry, bro? Like, because realistically, he has to wait until next election. And we don't know if he's going to win that or not. And that's in a couple of years, bro.
In your own leadership?
Well, yes, I have reflected, and obviously, I think my goal and one of the adjustments that we need to make is that people know that I'm a fighter, but they need to know what I'm fighting for and who I'm fighting for. I'm not fighting for the sake of fighting. It's fighting for the people.
I think that's perhaps the reputation you've developed among people who didn't vote for you, certainly, that you oppose for the sake of opposing.
And so what I have to do is show them who I'm fighting for and what I'm fighting for. I'm fighting for that single mother who's anxious as she walks.
She's right. Like, people think he's just opposing to oppose. That's just part of his personality. Like, you know what I mean? And it's like, no, he's fighting because he really wants Canada to be affordable again. For people to have that Canadian dream again. For people to be able to afford a house. Now people
grocery aisle because the prices are so high, she wonders if it will empty her bank account before she empties out her grocery card. I'm fighting for the young guy I just met in Montreal a couple days ago who says that a house on his street where his dad bought a home for $100,000 in the 90s now goes for $1 million, and he doesn't believe he'll ever be able to move out of his home. I'm fighting for him. I'm fighting for the mother who wants to get treatment for her son who's addicted to drugs. I'm fighting for those people. So it's
but I feel
like
you were fighting for those things in the last election,
and those
too.
people.
Yes, but it didn't work for you.
Well, we did get the biggest vote count in our history, but I don't give up. So some people might say, just give up, throw in the towel. But the people I just described, they don't give up. The wounded veteran abandoned by his government doesn't.
And this is what I'm saying. Like, how does he keep standing, bruh? How?
Well, neither do the families.
The loss was too significant.
You can't help them in the way you say you can help them unless you are in power.
Well, I sure can't help them if I give up. I have to fight on like they fight on.
And you know what I noticed? That because she said, okay, but you fighting for them didn't work. Do you think I'm going to start fighting for Canadians because it didn't work? That's the whole point of becoming prime minister, or at least trying to become the next prime minister. just because me fighting for the people didn't work, you think I'm going to stop fighting for the people just because it didn't work? Like, what? This is not a tactic. This is me genuinely trying to help the people of Canada. It's not a tactic to try to win.
And their future is worth fighting for. That's why I'm in this. I mean, I come from very humble beginnings myself. And this only in Canada that someone, you know, with my humble start in life, raised by a couple of teachers, that could get to this point. But I want that promise to be available for everybody. And that's why I keep going, that's why I keep fighting, and that's why I never give up.
And in the lead up to the last election, you were way ahead in the polls, if we believe the polls. You were on your way to becoming Prime Minister when Justin Trudeau was still around. When he left and a new Liberal leader came on the scene, your lead in the polls began to diminish to the point where, as we said, you lost the election. So something happened in that time, and you can argue that more Canadians put their faith in Mark Carney as a leader than in you.
Okay, one thing she's disregarding is Trump, though. I think that was the biggest thing that really changed and moved the polls. But I can say, though, what Justin Trudeau did was the best move for the Liberals. Like, I can't lie. Like, that was a W. That was a W because he was the issue. People were hating on him. You see what I'm saying? So once you take out the person that people are hating on and put a new leader, that fixes the whole problem. And now Pierre Poilievre can't really run on Justin Trudeau being so bad for Canada. So that was a W on the Liberals. That definitely did a lot for them. But I think the real blow was Donald Trump's comments. For sure.
What happened was that we got a record number of votes, and the highest share of vote we've got since 1988.
I know you keep saying that, but I understand that.
It happens to be true.
Yes, but I'm trying to move, if you don't mind, I'm trying to move a little bit beyond that to say, how do you broaden the tent now? You were fighting for, I think, a lot of the same things you were fighting for before, and as I said, you have a lot of very loyal support. But if you want to take it to the next level, if you're still leader when the next election is held, how do you change that equation?
Well, my plan is affordability, affordability, affordability. That is the single biggest issue facing Canadians after 10 years of Liberal inflation. So how do we take it to the next level? We go to more people and tell them that we're going to cut back on the inflationary deficit so that dollars go further. We make clear that we're going to cut taxes on work, investment, energy, and home building so that people bring home more and they pay less. We're also going to talk a lot, I've said affordability, but there's also the issue of crime. I mean, 10 years of catch and release has left Canadians endangered. We're going to repeal catch and release, lock up the criminals, and make it so people feel safe again in their communities. There's immigration. We'll be talking about the fact that immigration is still out of control and the government is allowing criminals and false refugee claimants to come in and undermine our security and drain our taxpayers. So those are all issues that we need to talk about in order to broaden our tent and win the support of Canadians for an affordable, safe Canada under a Conservative government.
Is it possible that in the last election, many Canadians just thought you weren't the man for the moment and that it's your leadership that's the issue?
Well, my leadership got us a record number of votes. I know you don't like me.
No, you said it. I think that's the fourth time.
It is a fact, though, right? And I think we led on all the issues. We led on fighting inflation, opposing carbon taxes, unblocking our resources,
and you've
treating
accused
addiction.
The Liberals of stealing your ideas.
Not quite. I want them to steal my ideas. I would say that they have stolen
the carbon tax. That was the first thing that Mark Carney asked, and then as you wanted.
Right. He's stealing my words, but not the deeds. So let's go with the carbon tax. So he did back down and reverse himself and get rid of the visible part of the carbon tax. But we still have an liberal industrial carbon tax on farm equipment and steel and all the things it takes to build a home, driving up housing and food costs. He's also bringing in a new fuel tax that started this year, but it's going up to 7 cents a liter next year. So yes, he steals my words because he knows my ideas are very popular, but he doesn't actually put them into practice. Or let's take crime. He claims to agree with me on bail, but he's blocking his own bail bill in the House of Commons, and so criminals still get out of jail within hours of their most recent arrest. Or on pipelines, he voted against the very pipeline he was promising just a week earlier in a recent vote in the House of Commons. So it is true that they're stealing my words,
he didn't
but
really
they're not
vote against.
my deeds.
In fairness, he didn't really vote against his own pipeline plans. You put forward an opposition motion, which the Liberals said was a stunt, a political tactic. So it wasn't really. His plan is still out there. And by the way, the Premier of Alberta is very happy with it. What do you make of the fact that the Premier of Alberta and...
No, she's not happy with it. It's just that it's either that or nothing. Yo, I'm starting to like her less, bro. She's getting uglier. She's starting to get ugly to me. Because she knows that's BS. She knows that's BS. If it was up to her, she would fast track everything and build it now.
Carney got along great when they met and signed this memorandum of understanding to build another pipeline.
So a couple of things. One, I'm glad that Danielle Smith forced Mr. Carney to flip-flop on the threatened Liberal production cuts to the oil and gas sector and their costly regulations on the electricity sector. Mr. Carney has not committed to building a pipeline. He opposed the pipeline in question. He testified against the pipeline in question in a parliamentary committee in 2021, and of course the Liberal government.
He wasn't in when? He wasn't
in 2021. I can give you the
Prime
video.
Minister then. He's the
Right.
Prime Minister now.
Right. But he was testifying.
So are you suggesting that? I know you suggest that he's doing this. It's disingenuous. This deal he has signed, the memorandum of understanding with Alberta. You don't think it's real?
That's correct, and I'll give you the background. He opposed the pipeline. He testified before a parliamentary committee against that same pipeline. The Liberal government killed that same pipeline in 2016, and numerous Liberal members of the present caucus have already made public social media posts saying it will never happen. So he understands that pipelines are very popular, so he wants to pretend he supports one until after the next election while telling people that he won't ever build one.
And
but I think we need
Danielle Smith, the Conservative Premier of Alberta, seems very happy with the potential of another pipeline under Mark Carney.
Well, I want to see the reality, and she said that under my leadership we'd be well on the way to getting the pipeline done.
Right, but
she
you
just
didn't
said
win
that
the
the other
election.
day. Well, that's why I need to win the next one, and then we can actually get some projects done, because this pipeline will be fantastic when it happens under a Conservative government. $30 billion a year in overseas exports, less dependence on the Americans, about $1,800 in benefits per family per year, and a stronger Canadian dollar, which will make our lives more affordable to buy homes and food.
And
those
why
are the
do you
things that we'll
think
do.
that you would get a pipeline built faster? What would you do to make that happen?
Get out of the way, because that's all that needs to happen right now.
Get out of the way of what?
The pipeline construction. So the federal government is the only level of government that needs to approve the pipeline. Under our Constitution, Section 92, the federal government has exclusive jurisdiction to approve or reject an interprovincial pipeline. The reason it doesn't happen, even though it's wildly profitable and popular, is that there is no federal permit to build it, and the previously approved pipeline was then canceled by this Liberal government in 2016. So if we get the government out of the way, approve a right-of-way, the private sector can then go ahead and build a pipeline from Hardisty, Alberta to the coast. And so all we really need to do is get the Prime Minister out of the way, because he is the only one who has the authority to approve or reject.
What about the duty to consult with Indigenous leaders?
We should do that.
You would do that?
Of course.
And what if through...
Yo. He said, yeah, we're going to do that. We're going to discuss with them, like, what?
After those consultations, the answer is still no.
Well, the answer is given by the Prime Minister. And I'm running...
I'm saying if the Indigenous leaders say no.
That I will thank them for their input, and at the end of the day, the Prime Minister has to decide. And my decision, and I'm telling Canadians before the election so they can vote on it, is I will approve a pipeline. Nobody has a veto. Not under our Constitution. There's a duty to consult.
There's a duty to consult, but if the answer is after the consultations we don't want this, it won't matter to you.
It's actually, first of all, I wouldn't say it wouldn't matter.
He stood on business. He said, this guy said, thank you for your input, but like... Like, respects, thank you. Like, thank you for that feedback. Like, respects. But we're building this pipeline, though.
Time. In 2016, 75% of indigenous communities along the path supported it. They overrode and overpowered those First Nations communities. And I think it's a really unfortunate stereotype to say that First Nations are against pipelines when the evidence is the overwhelming majority of them support it, although I think the media sometimes tries to stereotype that they're all against it.
I
That's
think
not
at the
true.
latest Assembly of First Nations meeting, there's a unanimous vote in supporting the Pacific Northwest Coast Indigenous leaders who don't want a pipeline.
Well, the last pipeline from northern Alberta to the Pacific had 75% of the First Nations communities along the route supporting it and benefiting from it. And we have these First Nations leaders in my own caucus who, for example, like Billy Morin, who is a former chief of the Enoch First Nations, and his community has been enriched because oil and gas has been allowed to expand. First Nations support oil and gas. Liberals and liberal elites often try to stereotype and stigmatize First Nations as being opposed to pipelines, but we need to get them built.
I think we should let Indigenous leaders who oppose it speak for themselves, first of all. But and there are those who do oppose it. So all I'm asking you is, what would you do in that case? And it sounds like you're saying you would override.
Could I ask you what the Liberals did when they killed the pipeline? They overrode and ignored the 75% who are in favor. Who were in favor of the project. So those who want to kill projects, they're consistently trampling on First Nations people who would benefit from the jobs, from the revenue for clean drinking water and for schools that would result. Liberals consistently use these as excuses. We don't need more excuses. We've had 10 years of blocking projects, making our economy more dependent on the Americans, driving down our dollar and driving up the cost of living. We need a prime minister who will take a clear stand and say, let's get out of the way and let's get building.
Let me ask you about what's happened in your caucus recently in the last month. You've lost a couple of MPs. Two of them have crossed the floor. One is resigning. Does that send any signals to you about your leadership?
It sends a signal to me that the Prime Minister is trying to manipulate his way to the majority that Canadians voters denied him during the election so that he can go forward with a very costly and unpopular
So you're
agenda.
blaming Mark Carney for Conservative MPs leaving your caucus?
He has been trying to orchestrate and manipulate a majority that Canadians denied him with dirty backroom and costly deals so that he can implement a costly and unpopular agenda.
As you make these accusations of him, what are you suggesting he or the Liberals did to attract Conservative MPs across the floor?
They've been telling Conservative MPs to help form a costly majority government so that he can go ahead with a very expensive and unpopular agenda that he would never be able to do if he faced the risk of an election. And I think that if he wants to have a majority to hike costs, to continue driving up grocery prices and deficits, then he should have the courage to bring that platform to the Canadian people for their mandate.
I'm talking about Conservative MPs who left your caucus. I'm not asking about Mark Carney
well,
right now, but
I'll address them if you want me to.
Let me just read to you what one of them, Chris d'Entremont, said. He concluded after leaving the caucus, this is from his statement, that there is a better path forward than being under your leadership, and he wants to be part of leading solutions rather than opposing everything. And in an interview, he said being in caucus felt a lot of the time like being in a frat house rather than being in a serious political party. What do you make of that?
Well, what I make of it is I look at the words that he said about only weeks earlier about the Liberal government. He said that Mark Carney's grocery price inflation was...
And then you're going to find it weird that he's saying there's backroom deals. It's logically obvious.
Inhumane. And that Mark Carney had broken his promise to be judged by the prices at the grocery store.
So you're happy he's gone?
And then he went against the words that he spoke and the voters who elected him for an affordable agenda. And then you have Mr. Ma, who said also that Mark Carney had an irresponsible deficit that was driving up the cost of living and making life more expensive for his constituents. And now they've chosen to help Mr. Carney add those costs on the backs of Canadians.
Well said.
I think at the end of the day, they should respect that their constituents voted for our conservative plan for a more affordable and safe country,
So
and that's what they should respect.
Do you hear nothing in the statements about leadership and the statements about how you're running your party? Are you absolutely confident that there isn't potentially a fracture in your caucus, that there may be others who feel this way too?
Well, I'm confident in my leadership because the agenda that we're leading on is the one of an affordable life, a safe country, a united nation right across Canada, and that's what those candidates ran on in the election. That's how they were elected, and that is the agenda that we should move forward with.
Okay, let's move on to another topic I want to ask you about, which is something that world leaders now have to deal with. Many of them are dealing with every day, and that is President Trump. Mm-hmm. He is a unpredictable leader. I think that's fair to say. People are not exactly sure what.
I won't lie. I did not expect Donald Trump to be such an issue right now. Like, when he won the election, I did not expect that. Like, I expected, okay, maybe the tariffs. Honestly, not even the tariffs. Like, tariffs to other countries, fine. But, to Canada, I didn't expect that, bro. I didn't expect him to be such, an issue. He's one of the top issues right now. He's literally finna squeeze our economy dry. He's taking business from Canada, bro. He's tariffing Canada. He's really trying to make us the 51st state. And it's funny, fam, because I was mad happy when the man won. I was like, yes, sir. I was voting for him. Of course, I didn't vote for him because I'm a Canadian citizen, but I was voting for him. You know what I mean? And I like him. He's kind of funny. You know what I mean? He's a character. But it's now I don't know what to feel about you. Look what you're doing to my country.
They're on solid ground when they're dealing with President Trump.
Why
If
can't
you
we
were
be
Prime
friends?
Minister, do you think you would be able to have reached a deal with him on tariffs? And how would you feel sitting across the table from him, trying to renegotiate NAFTA? Imagine yourself in that room.
Well, I would feel a great responsibility to defend Canadian workers and consumers. I would live out that responsibility by getting a fair deal for the Canadian people, the aim of which is to remove the unjustified American tariffs so that we can sell our goods into the U.S. market, in exchange for which what we offer is a good, reliable Canadian partner for minerals, for energy, for international security.
What would you do differently that Prime Minister Carney has not been able to accomplish what he wanted to do at this point?
Well, there's two things I would do differently. One is how I would manage the domestic economy. There's a lot of things we could do now.
I'm talking specifically about the negotiations with President Trump.
First of all, Mark Carney has made unilateral concessions, getting nothing in return, going directly against his promise. He said he would have a deal by July 21st. Still no deal.
So you would stand up to President Trump.
So I'll give you an example. I can continue to be bewildered as to why Mr. Carney would have dropped our legal action against the illegal American tariffs on our softwood lumber. And since Mr. Carney backed down on softwood lumber, President Trump has tripled the tariffs on that, destroying our forestry communities. This is after Mr. Carney promised elbows up.
Example.
So he went from elbows up, being his single biggest promise in the election, to saying just the other day, who cares?
That was his slogan.
And backing down to get nothing.
He has apologized for that.
He has apologized, but he should also
For her to say, he apologized for that, it shows the biasism. I don't care if that's not a word, bro. I thought at least you'd try to make it less obvious. The fact that she said, he apologized, just shows this is not even a fair interview, bro. She's ugly now. I don't like you.
Apologize for the fact that since he became Prime Minister,
ugly.
Not only has he not achieved his promise of a deal, American tariffs have doubled on autos, aluminum, and steel, and tripled on lumber.
Again, what I'm asking is not to go over Prime Minister Carney's record. I'm asking you what you would do differently. You know, the Ontario Premier calls President Trump a tyrant. Is that language you would use?
I would focus on the business relationship. We got to get a deal. At the end of the day, we're right next door to the biggest economic force in the history of the world. My focus is on getting a deal and the best possible arrangement for the Canadian people, defend our sovereignty, reopen markets.
That's Prime Minister Carney's objective too, to get a deal.
I'm sure it is,
so
but he
it's
hasn't
about
achieved
approach.
it.
It's about approach, I think, at this point, right? And it's about dealing with someone who is unpredictable, the way President Trump is.
Absolutely.
So do you stand up to him the way Ontario's Premier is and call him a tyrant?
Well, the approach that I would take is how do we leverage the things that we have in our favor to get what we want? And let me give you some examples. We could be producing and selling more of our oil to the United States of America. We could be opening up and selling more of our minerals at market prices so that we enrich our workers and our communities while allowing the United States to develop its industrial base. We have the potential to produce more electricity than almost any nation on earth to power AI data centers, and we're a secure partner for that so that the United States doesn't have to worry about the security of its data. Those are all things that we have as negotiating chips on our side that happen to benefit Canada anyway. The other thing I would say to the Americans is the more free trade we have, the richer that Canada becomes, the more we can spend on our military to unburden the U.S. from protecting our Arctic waters. That would make us more self-reliant, sovereign, and secure, but it would also give an advantage to our partners south of the border in keeping both of us safe. So those are some of the bargaining chips we have, but what we have to do is offer them in exchange for gains for Canada.
Why in this moment, when we are facing what many believe is its existential threat on a number of fronts, when we need to find other markets for Canadian products, why not take a more unified approach as a political leader in this country, rather than so much opposition to what the Prime Minister is trying to do?
Well, we have taken a unified approach. When I became leader and when the Prime Minister took office, I told him we're happy to work with him and support him in any way we can in order to get the best possible deal with the Americans. I've said that to him personally multiple times. He's chosen not to take us up on that offer. And instead, we've seen an extremely partisan approach from the Liberals when it's come to the Canada-U.S. issue. Instead of working with Canadians and uniting them around the goal of protecting our sovereignty and our economy, they've been divisive. I want to unite Canadians for our economy. And I've put forward very practical ideas on how we can do that. Like, we could, for example, fast track the approval of natural gas liquefaction plants to get tens of billions of dollars of our gas over to Asia and Europe to displace dirty coal over there while bringing down the dependence we have on the U.S. I've said let's rapidly approve pipelines and port expansions. Pass a Canadian Sovereignty Act that would make us more independent from the U.S. so that we'd also have more leverage. Get rid of the capital gains tax for anyone who reinvests in Canada. These are positive ideas that I proposed to the Prime Minister, and as I've said, steal my ideas, put them into place, and when you do, I will support that. I will support you in doing it.
Let me ask you about a test of your leadership that's coming up at the end of January. Mm-hmm. How confident are you?
Very, because look, I'm the leader that will restore the promise of this country. I share the values and purpose of our party to make this a country where hard work is rewarded.
Bro, I'm just taking in right now, though. Isn't the leader of the Conservative Party anymore? Like, I think that's the downfall of the Conservative Party as a whole. Like, at this point, people support Pierre Poilievre, not the Conservative Party. Pierre Poilievre himself, like, he's the face of the Conservative Party. Like, I don't know what the Conservative Party would even be without him. I don't think there's going to be any trouble at all with the leadership review. The only chance of being in power is Pierre Poilievre. You feel me? Like, I'm trying to think of a Conservative Party without Pierre Poilievre, and I just can't imagine that.
Streets are safe, and and I've been leading the debate on all of those issues.
Again, those are issues that we heard you campaign very strongly on in the last election. What I'm asking you now is, a year has passed, mm-hmm. almost a year. In January, it won't be quite a year since the last election. But do you feel you have to do something differently, or it's the same messaging as the last campaign?
Well, like I said, I think people, they know that I'm a fighter, but they have to know what I'm fighting for, my why. Why is the most important question.
But people will be watching this, people who didn't vote for you, who will be watching this and say, hold on, didn't he just lose 2 of his MPs to the Liberals? Didn't his popularity rating, if you look at the polls, is much lower than Prime Minister Carney's? Is he the guy you want to have as the leader of the party?
Well, first of all, I think you'll note that yesterday there were polls out that had me ahead of Mr. Carney personally, and our party ahead of the Liberal Party, because people do support our agenda of affordability and safety. They know that our policy of bringing down the cost of living and bringing up Canadian paychecks is the one that they want to vote for. And so, you asked me what my approach is going to be. I am going to continue to focus on affordability because it is the single biggest issue in this country. And just because I campaigned on affordability in the last election doesn't mean we will not campaign on affordability in the next election. Because at the end of the day, people deserve to be able to afford groceries and housing, and they deserve a safe street to live on. So we're going to push forward the policies that matter in the daily lives of everyday Canadians.
Yes, you've made that point multiple times. Thank you, sir. I want to ask one final question. If you lose another MP to the Liberals, and I don't know if you know whether you will or not, because I'm not sure. There's no clarity on that. It may or may not happen. You would then be facing a Liberal majority government, and you would be opposition leader for potentially another 3 years. How would that sit with you?
Well, I think it would sit very badly with the Canadian people who voted against a costly Liberal majority.
I'm asking you, would you hang on as leader?
I'm not giving up. I don't quit. And the people of our party, the welders, the waitresses, the plumbers and police officers, the soldiers and small business people, they're the ones who I'm fighting for, and I'm never going to stop fighting for them. They will decide with their democratic vote. We are not a party that makes decisions through backroom deals to form a costly majority government that nobody voted for. So I'm going to keep on fighting for the Canadian people and their chance to have an affordable, safe future as long as my party decides and the members and the grassroots people decide that I'm the one to champion them.
Thanks for taking time with us.
Thank you, and Merry Christmas once again.